Om Vavatu Sahanau Bhunaktu Sahaviryam Karavavahai Tejasvinavadhitamastu Ma Vidvishavahai. Om Shanti Shanti Shanti. Om. May Brahman protect us both, the teacher and the disciple. May he nourish us both. May we both work together with great energy. May our studies be vigorous and fruitful. May we not hate or criticize each other. Om. Peace, peace, peace. We are in the last chapter of the Yoga Sutras. Last time we came up to Sutra 11. So today we continue from Sutra number 12. Understanding time release a person from bondage. So in the last chapter, Patanjali is dealing with Kaivalya, liberation, and how to attain it. As a part of that, he is speaking about time. So Sutra 12 goes like this. Atita anagatam sarupada asti adhvasphedat dharmana. The past and future exist in their own nature, qualities having different ways. Past and future exist in their own nature, qualities having different ways. So what is time? Time is a system showing the sequence of event, one event after another occurring, one after another, as the past, present, and future. It's of indefinite duration. The time, you cannot say time when it starts or when it ends. It's indefinite duration occurring one after another events. So past, present, and future, they're all a continuous entity. It's not that, oh, past is finished, no. And that's completely different from present. No, there's a continuous entity. Past and present, past and future are as real as present itself. Both are included in the present. It may sound strange that past is included in the present or future is included in the present. It is there in a subtle form. Because only the movements of moments make it different. Otherwise, they are they are actually present in the present. The past is which is over, happened earlier, finished. Present is happening now. Future is going to come, and we are in the present. We grumble about something that happened in the past. Somebody said something, or something happened. We come grumble about that. Again, we complain about what's going to happen or what we think may happen in the future. So, and present, it's always problem. It's always problem. So past, present, future, they're all problems. How can we avoid this worry? The advice is, don't worry about what happened in the past. It is finished. The page is turned over. Don't worry, go on brooding over that. And don't worry about what's going to happen in the future. We may worry, things may happen, it may not happen at all. We simply waste our energy worrying about what may happen or what we think may happen in the future. So accept the world as it is. We know that there are a lot of negative ideas, thoughts, impressions in the world going on. It's a fact. We are not denying that. But for our own peace of mind, don't go on grabbing those negative ideas and thoughts and bringing it into our mind. develop positive attitude. That will help us to become pure and detached. And then only when we are pure and detached, then we have peace. Otherwise, we are suffering. Nobody else is suffering. We brought in negative ideas from outside, and then we suffer. There's no point in blaming others. It's our, we have done it. Past and present, future. These three shows that nothing comes out of, something cannot come out of nothing. In the Bhagavad Gita, Sri Krishna says, Nasado vidyate bhavo, na bhavo vidyate sataha. That which is non-existent can never come into being. That which is non-existent, which did not exist anytime, can never come into being. And that which is can never cease to be. Something which did not exist cannot come into being. And something which is can never cease to be. So what all things are here? It never ceases to be. It may disappear from our view. It may disappear from what we can observe in the universe, but it will be there in the subtle form. It will never cease to be. The real substance of the thing, it remains unchanged. The characteristic undergo with time. Like characteristics or the forms may change. They undergo manifestation and cessation, manifestation and dissolution. But the real character of, or the real thing, the essence of the thing never undergoes change. It will continue to exist. For example, take a seed. The seed, when it sprouts and becomes a sapling, the seed has become past. But it is there in the sapling as the past. And in that sapling is a big tree as a potential, the future. So in the seed, you put the seed in the ground. So as the sapling has come up, the seed is the past and the big tree is the future. Or to take a young child, the baby was the past and a grown-up adult is the future. Potential is there. It comes one from the other. So that's why we say past and future exist in the object in a subtle form. The past at present is memory. We remember all the things. We say it's past, but we remember what happened. We remember it's in the memory. We cannot say because it is past, it did not exist, because it exists in the memory. And the future, we think about it, about the potential. So that's also there as a potential. Its future also is present. And again, the past decides the present. What is happening now, what we are now, is decided by our past. And what we are now is going to decide our future. As Swamiji always says, we are the creators of our future. We create our future. We decide our future. Just because we don't see the past or the future, we cannot say it's not there. It is there in very subtle form. But why does the changes come? That change in the form and expression that Patanjali explains in the next sutra. Te vyakta sukshma gunatmanaha. They are manifested or fine, being the nature of the gunas. What are everything in the universe is a combination of three gunas: sattva, rajas, and tamas. The whole universe, the whole prakriti, nature. Nature, when it does not mean just external nature, it's also internal nature, also is included in the prakriti. The whole prakriti is made up of the three gunas, sattva, rajas, and tamas. The properties of everything is determined or decided by the gunas. The property can be manifest or can be dormant. The gunas may project a gross manifestation, an object which we can touch and see. See, like they say the tanmatras, the fine particles, they are also made of the three gunas. When they say the whole nature is made up of the gunas, the fine particles which we cannot see, which make up the gross particles, gross forms, all made up of the three gunas. So the gunas may project either concrete gross form or a very subtle fine forms, which subtle forms which you cannot perceive, our senses cannot conduct in any way, but they exist in a very potential form in nature. Or again, the gunas may completely alter the relationship, interrelationship of the matter. Like if sattva is predominant, a thing can be soft, conducive to happiness to people. So the person can be calm. Rajas is activity, restlessness. So if the rajas becomes predominant of an object, it can, instead of sattva, the object can completely change the form and the characteristic. But the three gunas are there. When we say rajas is predominant, sattva has not disappeared completely, tamas has not disappeared completely, it is there. Only it is predominant. One particular guna is predominant, the other two are less. But they are all there in a combination, different combination, that's all. And because they are present, all the gunas are present in some combination or other, the object has essential unity of form in spite of changes. Take again the example of the baby growing to an old person. The baby body, baby mind, baby brain, then a child body, child mind, child brain, adult youth body, youth mind, youth brain, adult body, mind and brain, old persons, falling apart, body falling apart, mind distracted, brain not functioning. But all through, the essence is the same. The combination of gunas change. Sattva, rajas and tamas change. The combination, predominance of which guna, that is changing. But the essence of the person is still same. The changes are only into the form or expression. The essential unity quality is the same. Or give another example. As living beings, we are all same. Whether we are plants, animals, humans, we are all living beings. But in plants, tamas is more, rajas is less, and sattva is very little. They cannot move, they cannot think. Animals, there is motion. So there is still tamas is a great lot of tamas is there, but there is more rajas and very little sattva. Animals can move around. To a certain extent, they can think also, like they have emotions, they can have fear, hunger, all those things are there. Not to the extent of human beings. But then when it comes to humans, there is sattva is there, more of rajas in most human beings, more of rajas, a lot of activity. But there is a little more sattva and small amount of rajas, or rajas, tamas. Rajas is predominant. In some highly evolved people, we see sattva is more. The percentage of sattva goes up, and rajas and tamas become less. But uniformly, we can say we are all human beings. That's our essence. We are all living beings. That's the essence. But there is difference. Again, take human beings. There is human beings, fundamentally we are all human beings, but I am different from you. You are different from the next person. Each one is different in quality, in expression. Some are good, some are evil, some are healthy, some are sick, some are rich, some are poor, some are educated, some are uneducated. So much of difference is there. But essentially, we are all human beings. So Swami Sarvagadananda says, the gunas are nothing but our reading of the world. Negative, active, serene. These are all our own creation. We read these things in nature, either things outside or persons outside or thoughts inside. It is our own reading. Our mind is projecting. What is out there, actually we don't know. We cannot say. Because we always, as soon as we see something, we put our mind over that, and then the picture that the mind gives, we come to know. Our real essence is not affected by any of this reading. And these three gunas manifest differently depending upon the three states, whether it is dormant, fine, or strong. Strong means really disturbing. We are disturbed by the past, remembering something which happened, event or comment, and also by the future, worrying about that. But when you look closely, we see that it's all our creation. We created all this. There's no the worrying about the past or worrying about the future is our own creation. So Swami Vivekananda calls it a very interesting term, the ghosts that have been created by my past. The ghosts created by my past, that's what worrying us. And that comes the future through present. We project the future. What is future? The projection of our present. And what is present? What came from the past. So what I created in the past is going to affect me in the future. So we have to be careful not to pick up all the negative vibration, negative thoughts, negative ideas which are there in the universe. Not that nobody is saying no, there is no negativity. There is a lot of negativity. But that doesn't mean that we have to bring it all inside us. There is dirt outside. Do we bring it in our home? We don't bring. We want to keep the house clean. So we don't bring it the dirt which is outside into our home. Similarly, there is a lot of negativity out in the world. But if we want peace, we don't bring in all those negativities. Rather, cultivate, develop positive attitude and hold on to those positive attitudes. For that, we have to be always alert. We have to be watchful what sort of ideas, thoughts we bring in. We keep in our mind. We have to be conscious of that. Otherwise, we may not be, if we are not careful, talking with others, often it happens. We talk with friends and family and then bring in all the negative ideas inside. And then we brood over it, worry about it, think, is it going to help us in any way? The only result is we lose our peace of mind. So we have to be alert always. We have to catch the thought before it can disturb us. And how there's unity in spite of the changes, that Patanjali says in the next sutra. Parinamekaitvat vastu tattvam. The unity of things is from unity in changes. Unity of things comes from unity in changes. Because the gunas work together, within every change of form and expression, there is unity in things. Guna always, whether it is sattva predominant or rajas predominant or tamas predominant, they are all together. All the three are in every change. So there is, because of the change, but together, there is unity in spite of the changes. So when a person takes another birth, the person brings the same mind. So the same individual mind goes through many births. But the gunas make the mind appear different, make changes in the mind. In one birth, the person may be very good. But does that mean that all the previous evil tendencies have been wiped off? No, they are all there in a very subtle form. In another birth, the person can be very wicked. So, or no good qualities at all. No, all those good impressions are there in a subtle form. It may not be manifesting in that particular incarnation, that's all. And how do we collect all these impressions? We collect all these impressions, the samskara, little by little. We say a word, see something, all that leaves impressions. And then after some time, that go into subconscious mind, bit by bit. And it doesn't remain as disjointed heaps. They connect, join together and make it into a connected whole. They make relation and connect them. And when they're connected, when they're joined together, they become very, very powerful. To give an example of that, in a movie film, there are thousands of pictures projected one after another at very short interval on the screen. Now, if you take one picture by itself, it doesn't show any action. Say it is some action of the hero jumping from the top of the building or something. If you take one picture, we don't see any action. But together, we see the picture, we see the action. We see good or bad. Action can be good, action can be bad. It can be neutral. It will rouse emotion now in us. Feelings, emotions, all that come because all those pictures join together. You take one picture and then say after 2 minutes you project the next picture. We don't see any action. And it doesn't mean anything to us. It doesn't arouse any emotion in us. But together, we laugh, we weep, we get angry seeing those pictures because they come together and create a very strong impression. So the subconscious mind is like that. All these samskaras going down into subconscious mind join together and become very powerful. And then they disturb us. Then how can we gain freedom? How can we be free from this bondage of these impressions? In one of the previous sutras, in Sutra 11, Patanjali said, our subconscious tendencies depend upon cause and effect. They have their basis in the mind, the samskaras, the tendencies, but they depend upon cause and effect. So if you remove the cause, the effect will cease to be. So we know the answer. How do we remove, get freedom from this bondage of the impressions? Remove the cause. And what is the cause? We identify with the mind. That's the cause. When we cease to identify with the mind, then we reduce the effect of the impressions. When we, instead of identifying with the mind, we realize that we are the Atman. We are the true self, not the mind. Then we are free. We become free from the bondage of these impressions. Now we come to the next sutra. Vastu samye chitta bhedat tayoho vibhakta panthaha. Since perception and desire vary with regard to the same object, mind and object are of different nature. Since perception and desire vary with regard to same object, the object is same, but perception and desire vary, so the mind and object are of different nature. It is everybody's common experience that no two minds see the same thing alike. Something is in front of us. No two people see the same thing or hear the same thing when what is spoken of or understand the same way because our minds are different. There is always difference in cognition. Though the substance remains the same, the perceptions of that particular object by different people vary according to the viewpoint of each one's consciousness. And consciousness of the perceiver and of consciousness, that's the perceiver. And the object is the perceived. And because of time, substance, and qualities of nature, consciousness as the perceiver develops differently in each individual. Or to say simply, because our upbringing, our family background, we develop differently and understand things differently. So the object may be the same, object remains the same, but we perceive it differently. The external world by itself is neutral. Differences like good and bad, ugly and beautiful are perceived because of the difference created by the viewpoints, created by our mind. Objects are what they are, but we see it differently. The differences occur in our mind. Because of my background, my upbringing, my culture, my values, they're all different from yours. So I see things in a different way from what you see. This object is same, but our viewpoint is completely different. The classic example given by the commentators for this is a beautiful young lady. Now, that emotions aroused in the husband or the relative or lover of the lady is happiness, joy. But the emotion aroused in a rival is jealousy. The emotions aroused in a renunciate, ascetic, seeing the lady, nothing, neutral. But the person is the same lady, but different people react differently, depending upon the viewpoint of that person. Again, we see that the same person can have different impressions about the same object at different times. Object is same, but have different ideas or different viewpoints. Object didn't change, but the person's mind changed. To give an example, on a very hot day, somebody gives me an ice cream. I enjoy it very much. But then a second one, then a third one, it goes on for 2-3 hours. So what happened in the first one, it was joy, happiness. And then towards the end, it is disgust, anger towards the person. What happened? The person didn't change. The object didn't change. It's the same ice cream. It's given by the same person, but my mind changed. So the object is the same person. I am also same. I also didn't change, but my mind changed in different time. things change so much. At a different time, the same object is viewed differently by the same person. So we can say no two minds are alike, no views are similar. So we have to be very careful when we try to understand a person's viewpoints, especially if you are attached to ideas or things, then our decision may not be proper. So it's always good to get somebody else's opinion also. Whether we accept or not doesn't matter. Ask for an opinion. Get a second opinion from another person. Or don't make a decision in the heat of the moment. Delay it, think about it, consider, because after some time, your opinion may change, your idea may change, your solution may change. Then we may wonder, is it ever possible to get a true impression of an object under any circumstances? If our mind is always coloring it, can we ever get a true impression? Yes, they say yes, yeah, we can. When the mind is completely free from vrittis modifications. And thus, the mind does not alter the impressions made upon it by the object. Then we get a true picture or true idea of the object. When that happens, we can say only in samadhi. In ordinary day-to-day life, always there will be some vritti or other in the mind stuff, in the chitta. And remember, what is yoga? Yoga, chitta vritti nirodha. The aim of yoga is stopping all the vrittis, all the modifications of the chitta or the mind. And when all the modifications of the mind are stopped, then whatever comes in front, we see exact idea of that picture, of the or object. In some editions of the Yoga Sutras, there is an additional aphorism. Some of them don't give that, some have given. So we go to the Swami Vivekananda has given that as a footnote. Sutra 16. Nachaiga chitta tandram vastu tat pramanakam tada kim syat. The object cannot be said to be dependent on a single mind. There being no proof of its existence, it would then become non-existent. If the existence of an object depends upon one mind, when that one mind is not working, functioning, does it mean that the object ceases to exist? That's the question. So in these two sutras, this particular sutra and the previous one, where Patanjali said, the objects way and the sense perception and desire vary with regard to same object, mind and object are of different nature. So these two sutras together, Patanjali is refuting the philosophy of idealism. It says that the world exists because we observe it. The object as it is in reality cannot be known by sense perception. According to Patanjali, the object exists independent of our viewpoint. Just like laws of nature exist even before it was discovered. And it will exist even after we have all forgotten about it. It will be like law of gravitation. Was there no law of gravitation before Newton discovered it? It was there. And it will be there even all the science books are destroyed. People forgot all that. Still it will be there. The reality of the object is there independent of our viewpoint. It does not, the existence of an object does not depend upon the mind perceiving it. So Swamiji says, if the perception of an object were the only criterion of its existence, then when the mind is absorbed in anything or in samadhi, it would not be perceived by anybody and might as well be said to be non-existent. This is an undesirable conclusion. See, if the object of the observing by the one mind is the only criterion of an object existing, then if the mind is not observing, say in deep sleep or in samadhi, then does it mean that the object does not exist at all at that time? If the objects in the external world has no real existence, but they are all creation of our mind, then that means the external world appear or disappear with the appearance and disappearance of objects in our mind. If some object come to our mind, then that object exists in the external world. And the moment it disappears from my mind, the object disappears from the external world. It doesn't happen. It's not correct. It doesn't happen. It doesn't work that way. So Patanjali does not accept that view. Then if it happens, then how can we account for the uniform experience? We all experience the same thing. If it is experience of one mind, no, it's not. All the minds experience uniformly. When a mind does not recognize the object, it means that mind has not perceived it, or its mind is not stimulated by object at all. That does not mean that mind is not existing there. We experience this all the time, this fact. Say, for example, now I'm talking. You are listening to what I'm saying. Suddenly, your attention wanders away. The mind wanders off. For a few seconds, wanders to some place and then comes back. So in a few seconds, you missed a few words. Does that mean that that time I cease to exist? I stop talking? No, it continues. So external world exists independent of our mind. That's what Patanjali is trying to tell us. The matter moves independent of mind and mind moves independent of matter. So these two sutras show that everything is in a flux. The nature and mind. And we are in the midst of all that flux. So we have to accept this is the truth of the world. The mind is like this. And then try to have some control over our mind. That's the only way we can have peace. Otherwise, we'll be always disturbed. We have to accept this. This is how the world works. This is how my mind is working. It's changing all the time. In spite of all that, I try to have some control over my mind. And for that, always come back to the same two ideas, alertness and mindfulness. Now we go to the next sutra. Taduparaga apekshitatvat chittasya vastu jnata ajnatam. Things are known or unknown to the mind, being dependent on the coloring which they give to the mind. Things are known or unknown to the mind, being dependent on the coloring which they give to the mind. The objects are known or unknown depending upon whether they affect our mind or not. The knowledge of an object may be extremely superficial or very deep, depending upon the degree of coloring or how much it has affected us. The mind must take in the object to a certain into our mind, within, to a certain extent at least, if it is to gain any knowledge of it. And to the extent that it assimilates, the object determines the degree of knowledge. See, a child who hasn't, or who is just started schooling, goes and sits in a graduate class or postgraduate class with others, postgraduate students. Does it understand anything? There's nothing, because the mind hasn't got any coloring at all. So it has some interest, some idea has to be there for it to understand. And that's why here it says, the extent to which it assimilates the object determines the degree of knowledge. And how much does it affect the mind, the object, depending upon the attraction we feel for the object, the interest we take in that object, and the attention we pay to that object. Say, for example, we are out in the street or in some place where a lot of people are there. We see many people. We just glance around. We are not interested in any of those, because we interested in any of those people. We very faint impression is made in our mind. We scan all the faces. Suddenly there's a face which I know, we get interested, because then we notice that person. So there is interest, attention, and then attraction. We go and talk to that person because I know the person. All the others, the same impression came under our mind. The sense from external world came, but it didn't give any deep impression because there was no interest. And because there was no interest, I didn't pay any attention. Sometimes it happens. We are engrossed in reading something interesting. Somebody calls, we don't hear. Why? Because we didn't pay attention. For this knowledge to come, there has to be attention and interest. Only then the knowledge comes. That's what's meant by here, coloring. Depend upon the coloring which they give to the mind. And the moment we give attention and we are interested, a strong impression is made in our mind. And sometimes it may cause happiness, sometimes it can be suffering. So we don't know object simply because it exists. We know the object only when we pay attention and we are interested in that. And continuing with that, Patanjali says, Sada Jnata Chitta Vrittasya Tat Prabhoho Purishasya Aparinamatvat. The states of mind are always known because the Lord of the mind, the Purusha, is unchangeable. All these changes, the coloring of the mind, modification of the mind, are all known to us because the Lord of the mind, the Purusha, the indwelling intelligence is there, and that intelligence is unchangeable, it's changeless. The world changes, the mind changes, but there is one unchanging entity, the Purusha, the intelligence. It observes all the changes that are going on, but it is steady, it does not move at all, it does not change at all. It's absolutely steady whether we are awake, whether we are dreaming, or whether we are in deep sleep. What happens in deep sleep? It's the experience of everybody that after the deep sleep, when we wake up, we say, oh, I had a very good sleep. I had a very good sleep, I didn't know anything. So somebody knew that I had a good sleep. And who was that telling us that we had a good sleep? that is the Purusha, the Lord, the witness. It is this, even though in deep sleep the consciousness forgets itself, Purusha, the witness, reminds the mind when it wakes up that you had a good sleep. So that is always the changeless, steady, witnessing all the changes that are happening on the surface level of the mind. Mind is not the seer. Mind does not see. Mind is only the instrument in the hand of the seer. The real seer is the Atman, the self, pure consciousness. So perceptions of object change according to the changes in the mind. The mind changes, the perception changes, but Atman does not change. It remains steady. It gives the steady background to view all these changes. So we have to have something steady to show the changes. See, the water flows in the river because there's a steady river bed. The river bed is not changing, only the water changes. The river is able to exist. It exists because of this steady river bed which does not change. The pictures are on the screen. We are able to see it because there's a steady screen which is not changing. We see all the changes in the universe in our mind because there's a steady background, the intelligence or the Purusha, the Lord, the witness. It is the self-luminous screen behind all the impressions. So Swamiji says, behind this never-ending chain of motion is the Purusha, the changeless, the colorless, the pure. All the impressions are merely reflected upon it. As a magic lantern throws images upon a screen without in any way tarnishing it. How many images come on the screen? But nothing happens. Nothing affects the screen. Nothing is, the screen is not at all disturbed or affected by the images coming on that. Gayatriprana Maharaj used to give a story. They took the children from the boarding school, hostel in Thrissur, young children, to see some movie. I think it was the part of Ramayana where Sita has to go into to go through the fire test. So she has to jump into the fire and comes out. So when that happened, some children started crying, frightened. Sita will be dead because the roaring fire is going on. Then they had to console her, explain to them and console. See, what did we see when we came? The blank white screen. And this film has been going on for so many days. Did the fire burn down the theater? Did the fire burn down the screen? So slowly like this, they had to give the reason, explain to them, this is only picture. The screen is there, the screen is only real thing. There's nothing else there, there's just light, electricity, light falling on that. So that the screen is the only real thing. That is our real nature. The screen behind all the images, behind the mind, behind all the perceptions. The screen is not affected. But what happens with us is, we identify with all the impressions that fall on the screen, the pictures that fall on the screen. And then we say we are happy, we are unhappy, we are disturbed. We have to be unattached. We have to detach ourselves from the impressions and realize that our true nature is that self-luminous screen, which is unaffected by all those impressions that are falling on it. That is the real nature of every one of us, and not the identification with the impressions. And we'll continue in the next class.
There'll be some time now for discussion, questions and answers. Just give me a couple of minutes. I need to do a bit of setting up for that. And those of you joining us via Zoom, you'll be able to join in soon. I just have to change some settings. Okay, we're ready for question answer discussion time. I might get it going as I often do. Just reflecting on these verses we've studied today. And a lot of it's about, or relates to the biases, the likes and dislikes that we develop from all the experiences and impressions we've received. It's coloring how we perceive the world and others. And I'm just reflecting on at the moment, at this time in history, there's a lot of diplomacy and discussion going on a big scale in the world, dealing with big issues. And it's just interesting, the people involved in those discussions and diplomacy are bringing to the table very strong emotions and impressions and very different views of the world and their place in it. And I'm imagining if they had delved a bit into Raja Yoga, it'd be very helpful for them at the moment. I mean, it's more of a comment than a question, but yeah, anything you could add to that, Gayatriprana.
Well, there always we had to, when the politicians speak of diplomacy, how sincere they are or how truthful they are, we never know what we get in the media. There are many things which we have not reported, and then only much later we came to know they had these discussions going on behind the scenes. So we can't take what we read in the media as the ultimate fact.
Well, no, although we do get actual statements from the key figures, yeah. So you get very, very directly from them what they're thinking, how they're viewing things.
They're making some statement, but yeah. At the same time, behind the scenes, there are other things going on.
It's a bit of theatre in that too, yes.
So many times you have to take with a margin.
But I'm just imagining they're not yogis, but the amount of self-restraint, and they've got to keep their emotions in check. They've got to carefully word things.
Yes.
So I find that quite interesting. They're not yogis, and yet they've got to bring in a lot of self-control.
That's why that's called diplomacy. Otherwise, where one wrong word can trigger a war. Yeah. Very careful what you say.
Yeah, can I take the microphone? And
Gayatriprana, you mentioned a lot about the internal and external world. When it comes to meditation, when you're sitting for meditation, how does this play out? What are we trying to achieve in relation to what you talked about today?
In external world, we have got all the impressions, a lot of impressions from the external world, which are in our mind as memories, impressions, subtle impressions. And when we sit for meditation, when we try to calm the mind, often they come up. And we can see that it's the disturbing impressions that, or negative impressions that come up more often. The positive impressions, positive ideas that we have received, happy memories, we don't remember so much unless we go through the photographs. how I enjoyed a holiday. Oh, I had a good holiday, finished. But something happened, one wrong thing happened, negative thing, that we keep on talking about it. It keeps, we say all these negative things are the things which disturb us. So that's why they say we have to be very careful about what negative impressions we bring in. The past we have brought in many negative impressions, they are in our subconscious mind. And as we sit for meditation, I try to calm the mind, often these negative impressions come up. And the advice given is don't pay attention to them. We have to say that is past, it is finished, however much disturbing it is. You have to say, no, it is past, it's over. I'm not going to pay attention. See, but just now we said the things disturb us only when, or give a strong impression when we show interest, when we pay attention. If you don't pay attention, it will fade off. So when the impressions come up from the subconscious mind, yeah, it happened. Yeah, I know it happened 10 years ago. That was 10 years ago. I'm not going to be bothered about it now. It has passed. Say that again and again to ourselves. Because only by telling again our mind again and again, slowly, we will learn to, or we will be able to ignore the impression that when it comes up, the tendency.
Oh, yes.
Regarding the perceptions by the mind, it's a very devious thing because we did talk about the mind and the brain together in a synonymous term, but it's quite different. Now, what happens in the medical science, the people, the psychiatrists and all that, we have got what we call as a receptor in the brain, and that affects the thinking of the mind. But spiritually speaking, it is altogether different. And nowadays, they have started accepting the meditations, stress relieving, and all those things. And they are also trying to do the same thing, what the yogis are doing, changing the perception of the mind. And they are saying, okay, look, this is in your mind. This is not the reality. Just try to see that the best example was that Raja Harishchandra, well, climbing the snake to see the lover, and then when he realizes, okay, look, this was a instead of the rope, there's a snake. He gives up the whole world. If I had done the same thing, I would have achieved much more. So the same thing is now happening, and a lot of people, instead of, and many times we see, okay, in psychiatry, they are changing the drugs. Of course, we are trying to do the experiment and find out that we have better drugs and which reduces the symptom. But still, we are not successful, and a lot of people are losing their life. Yeah. But there are others who are coming up and doing the different thing, and I think that's why the stress, the anxiety, and all those. If people are doing this yoga and meditations and all that, that makes a lot of difference and changes the attitude of the mind.
Yes. It is because the mind always affects the body, and mind being subtler than the gross body, it is more powerful. The subtle things are more powerful than the gross things, and mind being subtle, it has got greater power over the mind, over the body. And when the mind has got a positive attitude, positive outlook, it will have a good effect on the body. And now it's good. It's a good sign that the scientists, they're all recognizing the idea of consciousness and working on towards that.
And that is the very reason
even
why
there is what's it, light one can send the cancer center in the city where they can join
Chris Bryan Lighthouse.
Yes.
Yeah, even there was one surgeon, the oncologist, he used to run this seminar every week, once a week, charging something $5 and giving the cancer patients the Om Namo Shivaya and other things to meditate so that pain is reduced or reduced and they are getting better. Second thing was even in the depression and all that, we give this medication, it helps them. But in psychosis, it is still a big problem. And unless they change their attitude, it is not going to change. And a lot of people, and most of the time they give up in the end. If they keep on taking, even in the nowadays, in the depression, we say, okay, if it is the first time, 6 months, second time, you have to take it for 2 years. Previously, now, once it is after 6 months, you try it. Otherwise, if it comes back, you have to take it for the lifetime. And this is a sad situation. And a lot of people are now moving towards this sort of the meditations, religious, spirituality, and all this.
Maybe there's a famous statement by Carl Jung that all his patients who got help cured all have got some religious background. And when he say, and he adds, when I say religious, it's not any particular religion, but spiritual background. They took to some spiritual method like meditation, mindfulness, and all that helped them to get over their psychological problems. In the beginning, of course, when you got depression or things, in the beginning you had to, as an immediate relief, as like a painkiller, you have to take medicine. But then in the long run, to get to the root of the problem, you have to use this because changing the mind.
Yes. Gayatriprana, following from his comments, as much as it's been said that your perception affects your mind, affects the body, but there's also evidence, for example, that the body can also positively affect the mind. For example, when people are feeling depressed or they physically tend to slouch, and then they're told sit up straight or stand up and walk, because in that posture it's very hard to feel depressed. Because you can't walk around walking like this and feeling proud. And there is a physical manifestation to your thinking. And similarly, by altering body posture, it can also affect your perception. So that's
they're connected. They're connected easily.
That is why asanas are so important. Asana, especially, where we asked to sit erect, keeping the neck, chest, and the spine erect, because at that time you tend to get positive ideas and the mind becomes alert. The moment you start bending like this, when the weight of the stomach pulls you, then you doze off. Then the mind goes to unconscious level. That is why posture is so important. Second, asana. So that has its effect of the body's posture has on the mind. The mind becomes alert. It's the tendency to focus on its object of meditation is more when the body is erect. That's why the connection is there.
Mataji, I've got a quick question.
Yeah, sure. Go ahead.
So just going back to the sutras, say if a person who has done bad or has got all the bad gunas and samskaras, which are, I'm just trying to relate with what the Yoga Sutras have, and I'm just trying to correct my perception or just trying to have a better understanding of it. So a person just doing bad all over the world and suddenly changes his attitude or completely transforms himself or herself to a complete positive person, doing good deeds and trying to be on the good side of it after doing complete bad. So how will the law of karma come into place in that aspect? Say someone has probably been a bad criminal, doing a variety of bad stuff and suddenly changes to good. The person, so I'm just trying to keep the context to gunas and samskaras. Now the person who has done bad has transformed himself or changes his gunas and the impressions in the mind, which is say the samskaras, to the positive side of aspect of things. So I just get confused in terms of understanding how will the law of karma come into place.
Whatever actions you have done, the results we have to reap. It cannot go away. The person who has changed to a good person after doing all the bad things, that means the good tendencies was dominant in that person. Now it has come to surface level. But the effect of the bad things that he had done, it will be there. We have to reap those results either in this life or in the coming life. We don't know when. There is a classic example of Angulimala in the life of Buddha, who had killed so many people, cut their fingers and made a garland. He was so proud of that. And then one day he encountered Buddha. He tried to do the same thing with Buddha, but Buddha's purity stopped him on the track. And then he became a completely changed person, became a monk in his order. That does not mean that he will escape from the results of the past karmas. When he left, after some time, after maybe a few months, he went out to beg for alms, and the people recognized him as Angulimala, and they started throwing stones at him. He was deeply, completely bruised, wounded, but he had no complaint. He knew it is a result of his karma. The karma will never go. You have to, whether you have changed into a completely new person from the wicked one, or from a wicked wicked person to a good person, the good person to a wicked person, the karma will never go away. It will come to you. We have to reap the results of the karma. There is a story of Ashoka, how from Chand Ashoka, Emperor Ashoka, who is from Chanda Ashoka, he became to Dharma Ashoka. He was the whole the kingdom of Kalinga was completely erased by Ashoka. It killed thousands and thousands of people, or not just the soldiers, or the whole country was destroyed. But then he had a change of mind, completely changed. He followed Buddha's theory of ideas of non-violence and became Dharma Ashoka. But then that doesn't mean that those results will be erased. No, he has to suffer that. Because of the gunas are in all of us. Sattva, Rajas and Tamas. For particular time, Sattva predominates, Rajas predominates, Tamas predominates, but they are all there and the results will come.
Yeah, thank you. It's funny actually when you just go through these things and you don't get the stories which you have gone through as a childhood or at various points in your life. But yeah, this sort of discussion when you just come back with questions helps or just realigns you. Thank you so much.
Okay.
The comments about the mental state, the depression and all that, and what happens in that. There was one treasurer of the New South Wales who was diagnosed with the depression, and he was told, okay, you have to go on the medication. This fellow said, look, I don't want to take it. He went to the library, read all the books on the depression, and then he realized, okay, when you do the exercises, you can defeat it. And it is true, when you do the heavy exercises, because the adrenaline and noradrenalines are pumping, your depression, it is an antidepressive hormone. So he completely beat it. And he will, of course, the stress of the politics was so much that he gave up. And now many times I had seen him on the Sky News debating him. Second thing about the cancer and mind matters. There was one book I had read a few years ago, Mind Power, by, I think it was Keoh, Keoh. And that fellow, in one of the chapter he had written that one child, about 5 or 7 years old, was diagnosed with the metastasis in the brain. And surgeon pediatricians had said, oncologist, look, he has less time to live, and he won't last for more than 6 months or a year. Now, because the child had a limited time, the parents were pampering everything he wanted, and they got him some toy which was child liked it, and it was more or less like some electronic gadget where the rabbit is going and shoot all the time he was doing. And in a day he will do 4 hours, 5 hours, whenever he is awake, he will like that game. And after the 3 or 4 months, when they went for the checkup, and then they did the CT scan of the brain, there was no metastasis. And the surgeon was surprised. What happened? And then they said, okay, this is the effect of the mind over matter. And what he was doing while shooting the rabbit, he was shooting his cancer cells. And that killed completely. And that is the book. I have not forgotten. I must have read about 20 years ago or so. And there is another book also that fellow has written, but that book which was there, it is not available now. I tried to find out again to give it to other people.
So that shows, if we tell ourselves that I am that all-powerful, all blissful, all pure Atman again and again, that will have a strong effect on us. We can overcome everything. That's where that I am that Atman, I am that infinite Atman. I'm not this body, little confined body-mind complex which is swayed by all the impressions and that comes from outside. No. Now, as Swamiji says, we have been hypnotized to believe that we are limited human beings. No, we are not. So now we have to dehypnotize and tell ourselves, no, we are that infinite Atman, but all power. Then that attitude will affect the given God, the body. See, the yogis, we read that yogis live for many years, which ordinary human beings doesn't happen. Like Sri Ramakrishna went to Benares, he saw the, what's the name of Trailinga Swami. They say Trailinga Swami lived for more than 300 years. We will say that's not possible. It is possible. There are many things which ordinarily which is not possible. Well, ordinary, even in a physical sense, we can say, if somebody said, say 100 years ago that man will be landing on moon, it's not possible. Don't tell me, don't try to make me believe that. Now it has happened. Things happen in the physical world. So on the spiritual world, things happen if you work towards that. It's up to us whether we want it or not.
Any more questions?
So just the very last point that you said, Gayatriprana, if somebody has an idea to say land on the moon and others say no, what practically do you have to do to ignore them and focus on the goal?
Yes, yes.
So what do you do? What sort of mental hurdles or mental exercises would you do?
I know this is possible. I know this is possible. I will go towards this. This is my goal and I will go towards that, in spite of what others say. They may say because they don't understand whatever preparation I have done, whatever knowledge I have, they don't have that. So they don't see my viewpoint. But I know with all the knowledge I have collected, information I have collected, from my experience, I can achieve this. With that idea, go forward.
All right, well, thanks everybody for participating in the question and answer session. So we will have the yoga class this Thursday from 10 a.m. You're always welcome to join that. Friday night, we have the Bhagavad Gita discussion led by Gayatriprana. We'll start meditation here in Vedanta Hall from 7 p.m. and from 7:30 p.m. discussion in the hall or joining in via Zoom. Next Sunday, Gayatriprana will continue her series on spiritual warfare, part 2, be the topic the next Sunday. And so thanks for joining us in person and thanks to those joining us via Zoom. I don't know if you played there, box up.